Bargaining. After Buffy's death last season, the writers remember what the title of the show is and try to find a way to bring her back.
We open with the dude running away from Spike in a cemetery. He's going at a pretty good clip for being so big, but it turns out it's because he's a vampire. So, are they affected by things like that?
By being fat?
Like, can you have a lazy vampire who would get winded quickly?
Well, supposedly they don't breathe, so good question. How does their cardiovascular system work? Explain in the comments. It turns out Spike is helping the gang, and the vampire easily escapes them due to their utter incompetence.
And Willow's even psychically giving them directions from a rooftop.
She tells them where the vampire is, and at one point Giles gives us an impressive and completely unbelievable axe throw. And in regard to Willow getting into their brains, Xander references the Fury, which was completely out of place, and also unusual because that's a relatively obscure movie that is only worth checking out for the full-body explosion that we get to see from 16,000 angles at the end.
And then Buffy pops up and starts beating up the vampire, which is weird because Buffy died at the end of the last season. And the other characters don't really respond to her, so at first I was wondering if they were aware that she was there, or if it was some kind of ghost or spirit or something.
The fat vampire easily takes on Buffy, Giles, Tara, and Spike, showing that he is more dangerous than 99% of the threats that they faced in this show. But then Spike manages to kill him just by lighting his shirt on fire. If it was that easy, they should all just carry lighters with them everywhere and they wouldn't have anything to worry about. Even that's going too far. Maybe just a match.
Maybe just an HR manager. You're fired!
Meanwhile, Xander and Anya are fighting another vampire, but Buffy comes over and kills it, before spouting out some dialogue that is even more nonsensical than usual.
And it turns out that it is not actually Buffy, it is the Buffy android, and Willow has put it back together and reprogrammed it.
Then we get a knock-knock joke that I actually kind of liked, but it's too long to put into this video, and I don't remember what it was anymore, so just imagine a good knock-knock joke.
Is there such a thing? The next day, at the Sommers house, Willow and Tara are really the ones taking care of Dawn, even though the Buffy android is also in the house.
We get some unimportant dialogue, and then Xander shows up, and we get some more unimportant dialogue. We do learn that Buffy's dad might call, and they want to make sure that the Buffy android doesn't answer.
Because they're concerned that, because she's not the real Buffy and she's an idiot, the jig will be up.
And they don't want Buffy's dad to take Dawn away. Does that technically make them all kidnappers?
Sure. Willow is also concerned because she says the robot Buffy's biggest challenge is ahead, which turns out to be parent-teacher conferences. I could relate.
And I realize the intention here is to be humorous, but it bugs me that they wouldn't just have Willow or someone else go with Dawn, or at least accompany them.
At the conferences and meetings, the Buffy android is being herself, with stupid dialogue, and she's weirding people out, including a blonde Brendan Fraser.
And when she starts randomly talking about peanut butter sandwiches, it seems like she's giving herself away. But then the other parents start talking about how bad the school lunches are, and Dawn is saved. It was a very dumb scene.
At the magic shop, Giles finds some discrepancies in the ledgers, which annoys Anya, and she overreacts.
Xander pulls her aside, and she reveals that she is frustrated with everything going on, including Giles saying that he's leaving her in charge when he goes to England, but that he's still around, and everyone being upset over Buffy dying, and Xander not wanting to tell anyone about their engagement yet. It was very dramatic.
Later that night, Spike is babysitting Dawn, and they're both eating non-product placement pizza.
Dawn tells Spike that the teachers love the buffy-bot, which pissed me off because it was so dumb.
She also gives us a small recap of why she was important before, but she's not important now.
She says that Spike doesn't need to hang around if he doesn't want to, but he says he's not leaving, and very unsubtly demonstrates that he is still emotional about what happened at the end of last season. It was very dramatic.
Drama's the name of the game.
A girl walks home alone at night and gets grabbed by a vampire, but the Buffy android shows up and fights him.
She gets scratched,
revealing her robotness,
and starts to malfunction, and the vampire is delighted to find out that she's not the real Slayer, and he runs away, presumably to tell everybody else. And I was surprised that he could run at all in those baggy-ass 90s pants.
Well, remember, he's got vampire strength. Anya delivers the last known urn of Osiris to Willow, which they need for some kind of ritual, saying she found it on eBay. At least now you guys know why it took us so long to get to Season 6. Anya went for the cheapest shipping option from Egypt, which means that Ern was stuck on a boat for half a year. And Xander says they need to think about things seriously right after an entire scene of him doing nothing but making really dumb, out-of-place jokes. And then the scene finally ends with Willow saying they're going to bring Buffy back to life.
And that Giles, Spike, and Dawn cannot know. Willow brushes away the past times the dead have been brought back to life by saying that because Buffy was killed by mystical energy, this time is different. And is that true? Have mystical deaths not occurred in this show where someone was brought back to life?
I had that question too. Xander and Anya are uncomfortable with the idea of doing something that goes against the laws of nature, even though they do that all the time. But Willow says they don't have any choice. They already signed a 2-year contract with UPN.
I mean, Anya was a demon before.
Yeah, I mean, all these demons everywhere are using magic. Isn't that all going against the laws of nature? Or would that make it part of nature?
Isn't most magic going against the law of nature?
Explain in the comments. And Willow says that Buffy's soul could be trapped in a hell dimension and they can't just leave her there. What about all the other people that have died over the millennia?
Willow goes back to the Sommers house where Robot Buffy has returned, and Spike lets Willow know that the robot is on the fritz.
And Spike gets upset when the buffy-bot fawns over him and he leaves. It was very dramatic.
Willow plugs in a cable to the Buffy robot very noisily because it's a TV show, which supposedly will fix whatever's wrong with her. And she also has to fix her face and put new skin on or whatever. Does she know how to do that?
Good question. Explain in the comments. She could use magic. I'm sure they sell magic skin at the magic shop or something.
That goes against the laws of nature.
At night, a sleepless Dawn gets up and lays down next to the Buffy-bot. It was very dramatic.
The next day, Giles is training with Robot Buffy.
And we learn that she does not know how to throw a punch.
And Anya pops in and says it seems kind of pointless to try and train a robot like a human.
Which was a good point.
Take note, AI enthusiasts.
Giles ends up talking to the Buffy-bot about how he got Buffy killed, and the Buffy-bot asks why he is still around if his job as Watcher is done. And Giles doesn't answer. It was very dramatic.
At a bar, the vampire who ran away earlier reveals to some other demons
from the BDSM dimension
that the Slayer is an android. And listening to this vampire tell his story, he sounded just like an Animaniacs character. So I looked him up, and he has done a lot of voice acting, but Animaniacs was not in the list.
Thankfully, the demons kill the vampire, because he was really annoying, before they head to Sunnydale to take advantage of the situation. Willow performs a ritual out in a pristine meadow, where she calls forth a fawn, only to slaughter it and pray to some entity to exchange death for life or something.
It's pretty badass.
Willow is all of a sudden my favorite character.
And she only takes the heart, right? Or is it just the blood? Wasted good meat.
At the magic shop, Willow tells them she got the last ingredient for the spell on the black market. And Tara says she shouldn't have gone there because it could have been dangerous, as if the black market is a specific physical place. Willow asks why they're all there if they weren't supposed to meet up until later, but where else would they all be? These people don't have any interests outside of getting in Buffy's way, and now she's dead, so they're trying to bring her back so they can do that again. Where else would they go?
Anya shows a note from Giles, revealing he has left, and he's sitting in the airport.
So they all go with Dawn to see him off.
Give him crappy gifts.
And Xander says he tried to get someone to buy alcohol for Giles, which only brought attention to the ridiculous fact that these characters are still supposed to be under 21.
They give him parting gifts and hugs, hopefully without leaving any deer blood on his jacket.
And a bunch of sad music plays, and then Giles takes off his glasses and puts them back on like he does in every scene that he's in, and he heads for his plane. It was very dramatic.
After he leaves, the gang speculates what the hell Giles is even going to do over in England, because he never talks about anybody over there, or anything about his life. So I assumed he was going to get back with his band, start all those drugs and drinking again.
The gang meets up at night in the cemetery to perform the ritual, where Willow prays to Osiris and splashes blood everywhere.
She starts getting sliced up by unseen forces, and also gets some scarabs from the mummy crawling under her arms.
Oh, man.
Anytime I can force you to go find a clip from the mummy, I'm going to do it.
Damn it.
But the rest of the gang does not interfere, because they don't want to mess up the ritual. And it turns out it's a snake, not beetles.
Well, is it the same thing? Because is it like pieces of a snake moving through her that then forms into one? I don't know. Explain in the comments.
And Willow keeps telling them it's okay, because it's vital that nothing go wrong.
Suddenly, the demon biker gang starts riding through town, where they are confronted by the Buffy android, who beats a bunch of them up, but is damaged and leaves to find Willow.
But Willow is busy vomiting snakes and being covered in red CGI fire.
One of the pursuing demons runs over the urn of whatever,
which abruptly stops the magic, hopefully after all snakes had been expelled from Willow's internal organs.
And down in her coffin, Buffy is magically reconstituted.
But she's still under the ground in a coffin, so she starts freaking out.
It was very dramatic. The gang hides from the demons in the woods, and Xander says they should split up and meet up at the magic shop, which didn't make any sense, but that's what you get from Xander.
And they also decide to abandon the Buffy android, who's getting the shit kicked out of her, while the real Buffy is struggling to break out from her underground coffin. It really shouldn't be that hard, though, because vampires do it every episode.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point. It would be hard, so the vampires must be stronger than we think they are, or stronger than I thought they were. Xander talks to a weakened Willow, who says that if the urn was destroyed, there's no way to bring Buffy back.
But she doesn't know for sure that there's no other jar. Anya got the last one off eBay.
There's probably some old prophecy that said there was only one left.
No, because
okay.
From their earlier conversations, it was implied that there was more than one. That was just the only one they could find.
Okay, alright.
And she got it on eBay. So just wait until another one pops up or do some research that's outside of typing into the search bar on eBay.
The demons give up looking for the gang and start wrecking the town. And at the Sommers house, Spike sees what's going on and tells Dawn they need to get out of there.
I did like his little joke with the cross.
A couple of stakes, holy water, one cross. Ow! Brilliant.
Meanwhile, the real Buffy Uma Thurmans her way out of the grave. She walks around in a state of extreme disorientation, seeing that everything around her has been destroyed.
At the magic shop, Anya's relieved that the shop's okay, but then starts freaking out that no one else is there yet, and worries that something happened to them.
Tara starts doing a spell to try to locate Willow.
And it turns out that Xander and Willow are not back yet because they got lost. And Willow says they've been walking for an hour. If they could hear the motorcycles in the town center from the cemetery, then it must be a 30-second walk. And they live in this town. How do they not know where they are or where to go?
Well, they're in the woods at night, and they're both dumb. I thought it was plausible.
That they'd be walking for an hour.
For these characters, yes. If Xander's the one leading them...
They could still hear noise and crashing and burning. Just go in that direction.
Yeah, but they're trying to avoid the demons.
But they're trying to go to the magic shop, which is where the demons are.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, their plan didn't make sense in the first place, so...
The show doesn't make sense.
Luckily, they see the glowing orb from Tara's spell, and after some very unfunny jokes, they start to follow it.
At the magic shop, Willow says they need to go back out there and fight. But Anya points out that it's way too much for them to take on. But Willow says because Buffy is gone, there's nothing and no one else they can rely on.
Out in the street, we learn that Buffy doesn't seem to be processing things properly, and we hear the demons talk about how they are taking over the town. So where are the police? Where are all the people in the town? We see one who waves a gun at Buffy, but we don't actually see anyone do anything at all.
Yeah, I like how he waved that gun like an axe instead of, pointing it like a gun.
As Buffy watches, the demons tie ropes from their motorcycles to the Buffy android's limbs and tear it apart. Then they spot the real Buffy and go after her.
Assuming that she's just another android. Elsewhere, Tara is saying that maybe they were never meant to resurrect Buffy, but Willow takes that as the blame lying directly on her, which it does. And at that moment, Buffy pops up right in front of them, which was very lucky. She's very confused, she's nonverbal, and the gang realizes they probably should have dug her up before starting the ritual. And now she's traumatized. Bunch of idiots.
They try to get through to her, but they are interrupted by the demons,
who disturbingly claim they're going to murder the gang via rape. Seemed a little out of place for the tone of the show in general.
I mean, it's UPN. It's a fresh new network. They're trying to, make a name for themselves. They got to get out there somehow.
So is there a Voyager crossover at some point?
I guess we'll find out.
Hopefully.
The gang tries to scare the demons off, which doesn't work, and then Willow just stands there and gets smacked by the leader. Then Buffy finally steps in and starts fighting them.
Spike has managed to get a motorcycle from one of the demons, and he and Dawn find the Buffy android.
And while Spike is apparently out of earshot, the Buffy android mentions to Dawn seeing another Buffy.
And the Buffy android deactivates permanently, at least again. I mean, Willow could just put it back together again. She did last time.
So Dawn runs off on her own for some reason.
Yeah, what a dick move. And Spike is annoyed justifiably. It would have taken 3 seconds to yell something out to Spike.
Plus, she doesn't know where she's going, and she would be... I mean, it makes no sense for her to go on her own on foot.
Yeah, she could get lost in the woods for an hour.
Meanwhile, Buffy and the others manage to kill all the demons, and the gang all lines up to fit into frame as they try to talk to Buffy,
who is still traumatized and runs off. And they actually ask, out loud, should we go after her? Because they're all idiots.
One of the demons gets back up and tries to Wolverine Xander.
But thankfully, since this episode came out in 2001, Willow has just recently seen the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie and pulls an Ivan Ooze. You get to find clips from all the best movies this time.
Yeah, great. And she had threatened to use magic when they first confronted the demons.
Yeah, before swinging around a lead pipe.
Yeah, these characters are very smart.
As soon as she starts actually using magic, they have the complete advantage.
And it still takes Tara using an axe to take this demon out. And then they make some more dumb jokes. Buffy comes across the tower where she died last season, and we get some flashbacks.
She's replaying the scenario in her head when Dawn shows up and begs Buffy not to jump again.
Buffy asks if she is in hell, but Dawn says no, this is UPN.
The answer is yeah, there's still 2 seasons left.
Dawn says whatever happened to her is over, and the tower starts collapsing. So Buffy grabs Dawn, and for some reason decides that a not very sturdy-looking pulley is the best way down. Predictably, it breaks, and they somehow survive this long fall, only to be menaced by a very stock music cue.
Yeah, so if Buffy had jumped, I mean, it wasn't that much more distance than what they fell from, so she wouldn't have died anyway.
And she could have landed on her feet.
Yeah.
Then the tower collapses.
In all its CGI glory.
Dawn embraces Buffy and starts sobbing, but Buffy is unresponsive. It was very dramatic. Bargaining. Overall?
This is a more serious episode than I expected, and that was not unwelcome. If this was a move towards a new tone of the show, I am all about it. But if it's like past season openers, the writers seem to overload their efforts in the beginning, and then coast for half of the season. We'll see how it plays out. Spike's new attachment to Dawn, for me, is working so far. He didn't overplay it too much. I'm interested to see where that goes. I thought it would have been interesting / amusing if Dawn had gone the Joyce route and tried to resurrect Buffy herself at the same time as everybody else, but just in a different way.
Oh, that could have been interesting.
Then there would be conflicting spells, and Willow would be like, something's stopping me, and Dawn would be like, yeah, me. No, don't put that last part in. Having a Buffy android surrogate makes it impossible for these characters to experience closure. I know they said, oh, we need a Buffy, or else Dawn will be taken away. But from a psychological standpoint, it was so dumb to try and say, we all need to accept that Buffy is gone. Don't you agree, perfect physical replica that walks and talks?
But see, I imagine as we get farther into the future, we're going to start having stuff like that for people that have died. You know, AI versions of people and whatnot.
Yeah, but see, if that happened in real life, then I would shift towards people not directly related to me. Like, it'd be cool to have a conversation with Peter Cushing. Be like, how do you feel that they threw a CGI version of you into that shitty movie? Then you blow my planet. Willow's transformation into a mature adult who was serious about shit was interesting. It was a welcome character change, and it causing some personality conflicts is something I would like to see. I know I thought maybe that would happen to Giles at the end of last season when he suffocated Ben, but now Giles is gone. Did Anthony Head decide to leave the show? Is that why he's gone?
I assume he felt that his talents were being wasted, which is true.
But Willow said if Buffy comes back, Giles will come back. Does Giles come back?
Well, spoiler, yes, he comes back at some point.
Okay. Well, as long as it's not right away, because that would make his whole departure seem pretty pointless. Could a gang of 15 biker demons take out the real Buffy? The demons felt empowered because they knew it wasn't the real Buffy, so they all ganged up on her. But if they had done that for the real Buffy, would that have been successful too? And I think possibly yes, because she was alone.
That's a good question. I don't know. Well, it's not a good question. It's just dumb.
Thanks.
I mean...
I thought it was interesting that the gang, well, Willow, I guess, went for the Egyptian gods to resurrect Buffy. Was that intentional? Did that imply that Willow kind of suspected where Buffy ended up?
I don't know. I thought you were going to ask, does that imply that the Greek gods are out there
and the Norse stuff? Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. We saw that troll with the magic hammer.
Right. Could they have used the Book of the Dead to bring Buffy back to life? From the Mummy?
Oh, jeez. thought you were going to ask if we could get a Thor crossover or something, but...
No, I was going to say something good. Spike said that the demon biker gang was doing what they do regularly. Go from town to town, destroy and loot. And the demons said they had avoided Sunnydale up to that point because of the Slayer. But that implies that they have done this to other towns. Why isn't that on the news? Because they totally destroyed Sunnydale.
That was the question I had, is they were avoiding Sunnydale because of the Slayer, but they're still close enough that they just rode there on their motorcycles in a day. Like, I would think all you have to do is not be where the Slayer is, just completely stay away from California, and then you won't have anything to worry about.
Right. So are there other individuals spread throughout the world who have the same kind of responsibilities as her?
I mean, we know the Watchers Council is out there, but they don't seem to actually do anything.
Right. And the Knights of Byzantium
never
did anything, and now they're all dead.
Yeah, well, they said if you kill some of them, more of them will come, so maybe they'll show up halfway through the season on their horses.
Or they were just lying, trying to make themselves sound cool.
That seems more likely.
I bet a guy took off his glasses before he said that and then put them back on. For being such an expensive-seeming episode, you mentioned this a little bit, but I also thought it was very odd how there were virtually no extras at all in this town being completely destroyed outside of that one guy. No one was running through the streets, nobody was doing anything really, because nobody was there. And lastly, I hope Buffy wasn't actually in a good place after her sacrifice, because it would be such an asshole move to be dragged back by these people who are like, oh, we can't do anything for ourselves. And I could see some resentment stemming from that on Buffy's side. That would be an interesting conflict too, I would like to see, where she says, yo, I sacrificed myself, I was in a good place, and I basically got pulled back. And that's why I asked if it was hell, because this place sucks. And because she died, there should be a new Slayer activated, right? Somewhere?
Oh yeah, good question.
Or are they going to do the throwaway, well, it was a mystical death?
Well, because the first time she died, it activated Kendra, and then Kendra dying activated Faith. So does that mean the Slayer line, that she's not part of that Slayer line anymore? Is she like a dead end? Would it take Faith to die to bring another one back? Or to activate another one?
I guess. Where's Faith now?
I don't know. I think she's over an Angel.
Oh, good thing he didn't show up.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. But overall, after kind of dreading having to come back to this show, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. And I think, again, that the beginning of seasons are usually pretty strong. So I did give this one a B+.
Wow, okay. I am very surprised.
I anticipated this much.
I gave it a C-. It seemed like they wanted to go large scale with this season premiere, with the demon motorcycle gang wrecking the town, but it didn't work to make it feel big when we only saw this small group of characters. I appreciate what they were going for, but I don't think they succeeded at achieving it. I liked Buffy being stuck in her grave and everyone else not knowing about it at first, but I wish that had gone on without them finding out right away. I mean, they encounter Buffy as soon as she comes out of the grave. I think it would have been better if maybe she didn't encounter them until the next episode at least. I liked Willow hiding the details of what the spell to bring Buffy back entailed, and the potential implications of that going forward, although we'll see if anything actually comes of that. Giles leaving was weird, because this is the first episode of the season. It felt like that was kind of supposed to be a big thing, but it was immediately brushed away with all the bringing Buffy back stuff. And he hasn't had a chance to do anything this season, so it's just kind of, oh, I guess we're just going to get this character out of the way real quick. It seems like they've fully settled in on Spike being a good guy now, which to me still just makes him less interesting, but I don't think there's any way to salvage him at this point. The big problem with this episode, for me, you said that it was going for more serious, and in content I agree, and I did appreciate that, but there were a lot of out of place and just painful attempts at humor, especially from Xander. Xander is already a useless character, and in here, it seems like they're trying to make his new role be the comedic relief, because he didn't really have a role before, he was just there. But for that to work, he has to be funny, and the placement of the humor has to work. And in this episode, neither of those was the case, not even remotely. And if it wasn't for that big issue, I could have gone up to maybe a C+, maybe a B-. But apart from Buffy being reconstituted in her grave and having to claw her way out, I didn't think there was anything really special about this episode. And thinking back to the parent-teacher conference stuff at the beginning, there was some more dumb humor that just pissed me off.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was really dumb.
So we technically have 2 episodes out of the way now for the season, and we don't know anything about what our season arc or villain is going to be, but that's not a bad thing in itself.
I mean, if it was Buffy coming to terms with what had happened to her, more of an internal conflict as opposed to an external one, I'd be okay with that, as long as they do it well.
Yeah, I agree, but Xander is still going to be there, getting in the way. So we'll see what happens.
So we're going to finish this show out as of now, so stick with us.
So not only has Buffy been resurrected, but our channel has as well.
Along with all of our deep, well thought out, indisputable opinions.
Thanks for watching.